Alrighty, welcome everybody. I see we've got more people filing in now that we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and get started here in the interest of respecting everybody's time that's in the audience and who has come in nice and early here and on time. So first of all, I really just want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here today. There's a lot of places to hang out on the internet and there's so many interesting audio rooms to join. So I'm really just extremely grateful that you chose to be here today now, okay? And it's really my great hope that you leave here today with some enlightening tidbits that you can carry forward into your strategic planning for next year and beyond. Hello, so many lovely people coming on into the audience here. Awesome. And for those of you who feel comfortable doing so, please consider sharing to your network that you're attending this event right now. I really want this to be a collaborative session where I can help as many people as possible and address as many relevant questions as I can. So if you think that there's people in your network who might benefit from this event, please go ahead and just consider sharing to your feed that you're attending and give those people the opportunity to benefit from this information as well. Alrighty, so I am going to offer a brief introduction of myself for those of you who aren't familiar with me. Those of you who are can go ahead and top off your coffee or your water. So who am I and what makes me qualified to tackle these topics today? My name is Katie Goldhagen, and I'm the founder of Golden Hour Media and Strategy, a boutique consultancy focusing on bringing new strategic and marketing solutions to our clients. I'm passionate about great marketing, and I'm enthusiastic about bringing great ideas to life for my clients. My insights that I'm going to share today are backed up by 13 years of marketing experience across the board. And most recently, I served as Director of Strategic Communications and Marketing at my prior firm, where I managed and oversaw the development, planning, design, and execution of all aspects of the firm's marketing, business development, brand presence, identity and voice, public relations, the complete spectrum of the firm's communications, thought leadership, content creation, email campaigns, social media, websites, webinars, conferences, live events, and overseeing strategic partnerships. So as you can tell, I'm pretty well versed in all aspects of marketing, sales, and business development. And additionally, my journalistic background enables me to approach everything that I do in marketing with the unique storytelling lens that puts people at the center of the story and messaging. So during today's event, if you have a question or something that you'd like to share, I'd ask that you raise your hand, and once I conclude sharing the insights that I've prepared today, I'll bring you up on stage. I actually hate that term, so let's pretend, that we're in a nice grassy park, all sitting together in a circle, having a nice conversation, and I'll pass the mic to you and allow you to ask your question or share your sentiment with us, okay? So as you could tell from the title, today I'm going to be discussing some common marketing and strategy fumbles. I'm going to touch on how to remedy them, how to avoid them, and how to spot that that's the direction you're headed so you can course correct even earlier. And I'm going to give a few very specific, concrete examples during the presentation today, but I urge you to remain open-minded and see how these same problems might manifest in your own organization. Some of the considerations that I raised to be cognizant of when implementing a new software tool might be equally as applicable when considering whether to implement a physical tool like a copier or another piece of machinery. So I really urge you to stay open-minded to see how these problems might present themselves in different ways, so you can really get the most not only out of today's session, but you'll carry forward a lens for finding these problems that spans far beyond just the handful of concrete examples that I'm going to identify. Okay? All right, I'm going to have a sip of water and then we're going to dive into it. Okay, fumble number 1, not utilizing analytics. If you're not looking at your website, social media, and email campaign analytics on a weekly basis, if not more frequently, and noticing trends and adjusting accordingly, you are missing a huge opportunity to put that data to good use. You don't know if what you're doing is resonating, getting opened, getting clicked through, if you just send the email or post the post and then forget about it. And this is going to echo through some of the other points I'm going to make in this presentation, which is why I especially wanted to start out with this one. And so this analytics piece that I spoke about from a marketing perspective, this also applies to any other systems and analytics that you may be collecting about your processes and customer activities. Analytics are worthless without human analysis and reactionary adjustment. I'm going to say that again because it is very important. Analytics are worthless without human analysis and reactionary adjustment. When bringing new systems into the mix, you might be touting the analytical capabilities of the tool. Well, those capabilities are only valuable if you spend time delving into those analytics and adjusting your behaviors accordingly. And many CRM systems allow you to track your sales reps' engagement and activity in the platform. If people aren't using it, if information like calls and meeting notes aren't getting logged, that system is entirely useless and it is a sunk cost. So with respect to analytics, the warning sign that you're going down this path is that you don't even know where the analytics tab or section is at in your CRM or your email marketing tool. You already know if you aren't looking at analytics and having conversations about them and adjusting accordingly. So look at your emails against each other. Analyze why some perform better than others. See if you can make sense of why. There's so much more that I could say on this topic, but I'm not here to give away too much of my secret sauce. So if you want to hear more on this particular area of my expertise, shoot me a DM afterwards saying secret sauce, and we'll work to set up a strategy brainstorming session where I can dive deeper into this specific area of insight. Fumble number 2, not having clear calls to action in your emails. People write these emails and then they just end. And so does your reader's interest. It just ends without you pointing them somewhere else of value. And the keywords there are of value. Read more here. Register here. Even better, more specific ones if you can. Make sure there is always a point to your emails. Otherwise, you will train your audience that your emails are emails and nothing more, and they will slowly stop opening them. Now you have a disengaged audience, which is very difficult to recover from, because now they have made something in their mind true about your emails, and you have proven them right. An email should be the starting point of a journey, okay? An invitation to dive deeper, or to look at other relevant content, or to engage further. Most people think sending the email is the last step. Well, we wrote this email and the marketing department thinks it looks good and the executives and compliance department all signed off on it. Okay, work is done. Let's go head off to happy hour. No, sending the email is not the last step. Sending the email is the first step. You need to diligently review your analytics afterwards. It doesn't matter how good you and your team think the email is. If it didn't get opened, if it didn't get clicked through, and if no one engaged or took the desired action. So, like a good number 2 pencil on standardized test day, all good emails need to have a point. Fumble number 3, under-researching or not researching at all. Are you really going to pay thousands of dollars to attend a conference you've never heard of without vetting past participants or sponsors? Are you really going to invest thousands of dollars in a pricey web tool after only watching a 30-second YouTube tutorial? Yes, this stuff actually happens. I mean, kudos to the marketing department at that firm if they convinced you to buy their product after a 30-second YouTube demo. I mean, that's really strong marketing at play there. But that's not how you should make strategic decisions about bringing tools into the fold of your organization, okay? So, when bringing a new tool into the fold, you need to ask yourself these very specific questions. And again, I'm speaking here from my experience. There may be other questions that as you hear this, Based on the kind of tool that you or software that you might be evaluating, you'll know the specific questions that you should be asking. So for starters, what exactly is the problem that this is going to address or solve for? Get very specific here. Don't be vague. Next question. Is that problem or lack of a solution to that problem currently costing us more than the annual cost of this tool or subscription or service? And finally, can we quantify, or will we in the future be able to quantify the results of incorporating this tool? AKA, is it measurable or is it vague? You need to ask really good questions about this tool when you have the sales rep on the phone with you. Ask, who are your main competitors? Then go and look at those competitors and look at those competitors' competitors. And you are going to have a full list of either software firms that offer competing platforms or service providers that offer competing services. And you really need to do your research on this. And again, I'm going to give two very concrete examples here that are just specific to my own experience, but they could be resonant for other things that you may be considering bringing into the fold, or you may have experienced these two exact ones because they're very common. So when I built my website for Golden Hour Media and Strategy, I looked at Podia, I looked at Kajabi, WordPress, Wix, Weebly, Samcart, and possibly even some others that I'm presently forgetting before I made my final decision. And at my prior firm, when I implemented a new CRM system, I researched and saw demos of Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, Zoho, Act, Sugar CRM, Affinity, Monday.com, and many others to determine the best fit, not just for present-day needs, but that would be scalable over the coming years. Nobody wants to implement a costly solution only to realize 12 or 18 months down the road that it isn't growing with your organization's expansion. So when you speak with a representative at a software tool, for example, ask for another client who is similar to you to speak to as a reference who uses that tool. Don't ask for a client who is happy with the solution. That won't help you. Ask for a client similar to you. Period. End the sentence there. Then go and chat with that client and ask them the hard questions. And this is maybe because I have this journalistic background and I anticipate difficult questions, but you really need to ask them things that are going to help you assess the tool. Don't ask them questions that you already know the answers to. Don't ask them questions that are just going to positively reinforce the way that you're already leaning towards making a decision on this tool. Ask them the hard questions. It is so much easier to ask the hard questions up front than to sign a 3-year subscription agreement, implement the tool, then find out that, oh, it can't do this thing, or, oh, it actually doesn't do this thing as well as we thought it maybe would, or, oh, this actually isn't the best fit for our type of organization. There are so many competing tools out there. In the 2 examples I gave, there are so many more website hosting platforms that I could have looked at. There are so many more CRM systems that I could have rattled off. You don't need to choose something because it is the only player in the space. There are always options. So definitely take the time to research up front. It is worth the time and the hours spent by the team doing that research to make sure the tool is the best fit. Because I guarantee you, no matter the hourly rate or the salary of the person conducting this research and this analysis, I guarantee it is cheaper than being stuck in a 3-year subscription agreement for something that doesn't work, then having to go purchase another solution in the same space because you failed to conduct proper and thorough research up front. And I'm not even going to get into the cultural dissonance that will occur when you do something like implement a CRM system, roll it out to all of your reps, and then have to backpedal. Not only will the decision-making team look incompetent and risk losing the respect of the reps, but you will create confusion in the workplace. And when people don't know, which tool they should be using or where they should be logging what, do you know what they do? They stop using any of the tools. And if you lose the confidence that your team has in your decision-making ability, that is extremely difficult to regain. And the same research aspect goes with conferences. There are new conference organizers and new conferences cropping up all of the time. And it's just not possible to have familiarity or have heard of every single one, right? Some of them have the brand recognition and the name recognition, but there are new ones cropping up all the time. So if you're offered a speaking slot that seems too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. If it's a new conference that you haven't heard of, or you haven't heard some of your peers in your network talking about it, vet the conference before you register. So many of these conferences cost thousands of dollars just to attend. A lot of times they're not in the same city, and they might not be even in the same country as where you're located. So you have all of that additional cost associated with travel, food, transportation, hotel arrangements that you're going to have to spend. So why would you not find out up front if this is actually a valuable use of time and money? So some of the other questions that you might want to ask on the conference front, if you're approached about a conference or if you find one organically through research that you think is going to be beneficial or helpful, ask them for other people who are attending. Ask them for a sampling of the registration list or the sponsor list so that you can see who the other attendees are actually going to be, so that you can make an educated determination if those are people you want to do business with, or that you want to network with, or who you want to synergize with. Like, find that out before you make the financial commitment. And I know this sounds so obvious when you're hearing me say it, but it really happens. People are very trigger happy in terms of signing up for things that they are invited to, and they don't conduct this due diligence up front. And then they find out that, the target audience at this conference isn't really our buyer, or isn't really our target persona, or the registration numbers aren't what we thought they would be to justify the spend. It is so much harder to get out of something that you have already agreed to and to get your money back for something that you have already paid for than it is to just do the research up front. Take the handful of hours, however many hours it will take you to conduct research, reach out to people who are attending or who have attended in the past, and get their feedback and really vet these conferences. And like I said before, ask the hard questions. Don't ask questions that are just going to positively reinforce the way that you're leaning. Ask questions that are going to maybe steer you away from making a bad decision. Again, no matter what the salary or hourly rate of the person you are having conduct that research, it is cheaper than attending a conference and paying for travel and expenses for something that doesn't result in the kind of business outcomes that you envisioned when you made that financial commitment. So how to spot this fumble before it happens? With making snap buying decisions, this usually happens near the end of quarters when pricing becomes more appealing. Make sure to take a step back and conduct this research. A good price on a tool that doesn't serve your organization is not a bargain in the long run. I'm going to say that again because it's very important. A good price on a tool that doesn't serve your organization is not a bargain in the long run. If you haven't had a conversation besides with the rep pitching you, then it's too soon to be making a buying decision. And a lot of the things that I'm talking about today, they go hand in hand. Asking good questions and doing good research. Doing good research and then following up that good research by asking smart, difficult questions. Fumble number 4, spending disproportionately. So this can look like buying expensive ad space, then trying to create the ad for free in-house that is supposed to convince people to invest with you? Huh? Or spending a ton of money on attending a conference and traveling to it, but not spending enough money on promotion. If no one knows you are there, what's the point? This can also look like skimping on spending on things that are very public and tangible. Okay, nothing makes your firm look cash-strapped more than a shoddy website or a business card that's off-center or feels cheap in their hand, especially compared with all the other ones they received at the trade show. These small things are actually the really big things, and they matter. And another example, buying an expensive software or software as a service product and then skimping on implementation. If your data comes over flat from a legacy system, or if you botch the implementation, you are going to have much bigger and costlier issues to undo down the road than if you just prevented them up front. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions here. But before I do, I just want to conclude by saying, I really hope this resonated with you and that you got immense value from today's session. I'm going to be hosting more events like this one on both similar and different topics, so please stay tuned. And if you're interested in exploring a different approach to your marketing efforts and growth strategy, get in touch with me. Even if you have an in-house marketing department, it can be difficult to solve a problem if you are too close to it. And that's where an outside perspective can really be invaluable, so you and your team don't continue to spin your wheels without finding a solution. And if you want to talk more in depth about something that I raised here, but not in front of the whole group, please go ahead and shoot me a DM after this event, and we can set a time to connect further. And finally, if you found this session valuable, I invite you to follow me as well as my company page, Golden Hour Media and Strategy, so you could be the first to know when I share relevant content on these topics and host other upcoming events that might be of interest to you and your team. And finally, if you're in a similar or adjacent industry and you're interested in teaming up to do joint webinars or audio rooms, give me a shout. I'm looking to do many more of these in the future, and I would just love to see how we can synergize and bring something great to our audiences. And, go ahead and when you connect with me, tell me what you loved, tell me what you didn't like, tell me what you wish I would have covered, and let's have a conversation. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you to raise your hand and come and chat with us in our little circle on the grassy knoll. Again, for those of you who have to drop off early, thank you so much again for taking the time to attend, and I hope that we're in touch soon. All right. Hi, Jean. I've brought you up in the grassy knoll. The mic is yours. What do you want to ask or share with us? You might have to unmute yourself. In the meantime, I'm going to bring somebody else here up on stage. And if I mispronounce your name, please do correct me. It is not my intention, and I would love to get it right. So, Abdallah, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Yeah, hello. It was a very informative session. I thank you for your time and thank you for everything that you mentioned. I'm a MBA student, and I would like to know who are the top marketing voices that we'd be listening to, reading to in these days.
Sure. Well, there are so many great people on LinkedIn, who are hosting events like this. And it really just kind of depends, what aspect you're most interested in. And what's most important, too, is that you find voices and personalities that resonate with you. Who resonates with me? I can certainly send you a couple of profiles after the fact of people who I follow and who I think, have valuable insights on this topic as well. But really, I would just urge you to spend a little bit of time, browsing through people's events and through their posts and finding who resonates with you and who's covering the exact topics that are important to you, because marketing is a big space. There's a lot of different aspects that are involved, and it touches a lot of different areas. So it will really be important for you to do some research on that. But I'm more than happy to pass along some of the folks that I find share tremendously valuable content here on LinkedIn, and maybe that'll point you in the right direction.
Thank you. That would be very valuable and helpful and throughout my course. The top voices I follow is mainly Gary Vaynerchuk, and I've read a few books, but I'm also doing some research on marketing strategies, and I would love to know who are the experts from your perspective. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to deny Gary Vee is quite a presence, and he shares a lot of really, really valuable stuff, not just on marketing, but about business and about life. So definitely agree with you. I follow and keep up with his content, but I will surely peruse my arsenal here and send you a couple of people's profiles after the fact, and we can have a chat and see if it's in alignment or what you think once you have a chance to go through them.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, Jean, I still have you up on stage here. If you can unmute yourself, the floor is yours to share your sentiment or ask your question. Otherwise, I'm going to move to someone else.
Hello, did it work?
It worked. You got us. How are you?
I'm still learning on LinkedIn and technology. So that was my question. Being an artist, I don't know how to, there's a lot of marketing and there's a lot of stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook and some of the other things.
Sure.
That charge a lot of money and whatnot. And my point is that I'm still grassroots and I'm trying to learn. I'm also looking for, a book editor, to help me with some of my stories. But my question is, being an artist, I'm trying to figure out, when you go to a craft fair or things of that nature, how do you really know what's expected from people's, insight, when they walk over? Do they think like a craft fair is like a garage sale? And being an artist, I can't necessarily give my stuff away.
Right.
I've had awards and things like that for my artwork. So that was my question. I know it's maybe, I don't know if it fits here, but I figured I'd ask it.
Sure. So you're like a traditional artist, like canvas or paintings or something of that nature?
Yes. Yeah. I also have note cards and T-shirts and mugs and things like that as well.
Sure. Okay. Really cool. Really cool. So you're more so asking how to give people a taste of what they're going to see when they come to your table at a craft fair without, you obviously don't want to give things away. Do you watermark your stuff when you put it online, when you showcase it?
I do have it on Etsy. I don't necessarily have it watermarked on my website, but of course I have my initials on it and everything else. I know, whether I bring my physical copy or else the prints, I know, it's hard for me to know, when you have a craft fair or you go to a craft fair or, join it, for example, someone was explaining to me, there's like an organization that has a lot of craft fairs and they charge like $175 for a space. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying to myself, I have to sell so much money in order to get that recoup. And, even though it's a great place, you have no control about where they put you.
Right.
Outside event, even if I have a tent or whatnot, or it might be inside in the school somewhere.
Right.
They put you wherever they want, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be getting any traffic. So that was my question. I'm trying to learn to find out how do you, the ins and outs, and how do you figure that out?
Sure. So I'll share kind of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
So I'll share kind of two different prongs here. So, I totally understand a lot of these events are not free. The organizers of these craft fairs are trying to make money as well. I would urge you to try to research, though there may be opportunities, and I'm speaking from experience here. There's a restaurant nearby me, and I know you're probably not nearby me, but the business owner, as a small business owner himself, offers his banquet hall rooms twice a year to put on a craft fair, and it's free, and he just does it out of the kindness of his heart. Okay. And another example is there's a school nearby me, a Catholic school affiliated with a Catholic church, and they have this big garage sale every year in the summer, you know, when school is closed, and it's huge, right? There's a whole room for books, a whole room for kitchenwares, but they also allow people who are like Mary Kay consultants to set up a table for free. So there may be some options that are unpaid. And then another one, I would urge you to see if there's any that could be commission based, where you're only going to pay a portion of what you sell at that booth to the organizer. So if you don't have a good selling, or if you're in a not in a great position, not in the best spot, you aren't going to be penalized by having to pay the same amount across the board. And then finally, I would just say to make your booth as appealing as possible. So this goes back to some of my experience when being at conferences and trade shows and things like that. Like, even though you can't give your art away for free, you can maybe have a candy dish out there with candy or something that just draws people in. You can have a pretty tablecloth. I don't know what your backdrop is. If you have some kind of branded backdrop, that might draw people in. You could do all kinds of stuff like that, just so that no matter where you're positioned, people are like, "Ooh, I've got to go see that." Or, people, we're very basic, right? If you have like maybe small little water bottles, or candy, and you can even get the water bottles like branded with little labels. That's going to cost a little bit more, but it may be worth it if you get the traffic and people are there and they're like, wow, this is really cool that you have like water, especially if it's like in the summer and it's an outdoor event, just little stuff like that unintentionally will draw people to you because you play on their basic human needs.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm at this, I truly appreciate, because I'm at this point where I don't mind spending money if it's worth it, but right. I don't just want to throw it to the wind, right? Because it's not like I have a huge budget that I could just throw it and say, okay, you know what, if it works, it works, doesn't, it doesn't. I always get people who do find me, compliment me on my artwork and are blown away by it, so it's just a question of trying to get to my Etsy store and having people buy stuff. I have no problem people looking at my stuff right on Etsy, but I'd like to have a couple sales, Yeah.
Well, for sure. We are in a currency-based society, and we do all have something that we need to sell, and, without, even though that's difficult, right? So I totally get where you're coming from. I can think back on some of the other stuff that I noticed work real well at trade shows, and I feel that, a trade show is probably the most comparable thing to a craft fair in terms of you're competing with everybody else there to get eyeballs on your stuff. And, we can definitely have a chat after the fact as well if you're interested, and just see what else there is that maybe you haven't evaluated or haven't considered bringing into the fold yet.
Because I said, I'm still learning, as I said, I've only been painting for maybe 10 years, not knowing I was a painter, or an artist,
sure.
So, and sure. I also have books too. So my point is that, it's very hard to feel and know what's what and where people are going, what they're interested in.
For
so
sure.
I truly appreciate it, like trying to find a book editor,
mm-hmm.
to edit my stories without charging me an arm and a leg and really understand what I'm looking for, So
for sure.
That I truly appreciate. And you have my information here, so I truly appreciate any insight, because it's very hard to find.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely have a follow-up chat here and, discuss some of these things and see what I could do to help you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Stay well.
Awesome.
I have to run, but thank you very much for everything.
Thanks for stopping by and for sharing your question. I'm sure others benefited from it as well.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Alyssa, the floor is yours.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for joining today and giving your insights. My question today is, how does someone keep up with marketing trends? And how do you predict that they change?
Sure. It's constantly changing, and I always giggle. I don't have a marketing degree. I have a broadcast journalism degree, but I feel that that's actually very good, because anything that would have been relevant in marketing when I received my college degree has changed so drastically since then that it would have been almost, I wouldn't say not helpful but definitely things change all the time. I would say, and I say this all the time, don't focus so much on the trends. Focus on knowing your audience, because your audience is going to determine which trends are actually important for you to follow. And something that I say all the time is people have shiny object syndrome. For example, everybody thinks that they need to be on TikTok because TikTok is the trending platform. But if your buyer isn't on TikTok, you maybe don't need to be on TikTok. It doesn't make any sense to spread yourself thin being in all of these different places if your target persona isn't spending their time on the internet in that place. If LinkedIn is where they're at, you should double down on LinkedIn. But again, this is one of those things like I talked about. Internal marketing departments are sometimes so close to these issues that they just think that they need to be on TikTok, or they think that whatever the next trendy platform is, they need to jump on it. So definitely there is, there's tactic here with just listening to what's going on in the industry, but also paying attention to your audience. If you're a graphic designer, there's specific people who you speak with all the time who are the target buyer for your services. And where they spend time on the internet and where their eyeballs are at is what's most important versus what's trending. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that kind of answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, David, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning. Hopefully everybody is doing amazing and well. This has been an amazing room. You've been dropping some amazing value, especially, with making sure that people, analyze what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then the call to action within the email. That was spot on. We got to be asking more and being able to really, justify who our target audience is, which is something you just mentioned. We all have to know who our target audience is. So with myself being, in the AI and Web3 space, I always like to ask other marketers this question, with 80% of CEOs saying that they're going to move over to metaverse and AI, and a 200% increase with the virtual storefront. And then with Hilton being able to take a 4-hour training to a 20-minute training, how do you believe that AI and metaverse will impact, us as marketers, especially understanding that metaverse is nothing more than the third generation of the internet?
Sure. Great question. The way that I feel about artificial intelligence is that it's never going to replicate or duplicate human interaction. So many people now are using ChatGPT to write their LinkedIn posts and write their content, and that's fine, right? That's great. But you can also tell sometimes. And so I think that as that becomes more and more prevalent, and of course, right now it's new, so everybody's playing around with it because it's the shiny object and people are curious. But then the things like actual personalized human interaction are going to become so much more valuable and so much more important because it's going to become so much more rare, which is why I think video in particular is becoming just really well consumed and performing really well in the marketing space, because the AI, a robot, cannot do that. They cannot be you or I and filming ourselves talking naturally, organically. I think that there's been a shift in the collective consciousness where people they crave organic, natural content, even if it isn't perfectly polished, right? I think people love these audio events because they're real, they're live, they're raw. It's not a webinar that somebody recorded. And I'm not saying that there isn't, value in that. There totally is. But what I'm saying is people are craving some of that imperfection that comes only from, natural human mistakes and interactions and these kind of raw events. So that's kind of where I see things going. I think as AI becomes more important, the flip side is also true. The opposite of AI is going to be important as we all become inundated with posts that were written by a robot. It's going to be all the more important for us to find ways to show our personality in our marketing. Thank you for coming up here, David, and sharing your questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate all the insights. So I have a question, and I apologize if I'm out of breath, I'm on a run, but I have a question regarding tactical strategies around marketing if a business's launch date is in the future. So, for example, in the startup world, right? Mm-hmm. How do I create that buzz, whether it's guerrilla marketing? How do I create the brand awareness using tactical methods prior to launch? That way, when my business does go live, I have people expecting and they're aware that I exist. And so I'm just wondering, what have you seen that has worked? And what are some of the things that really didn't add value that is still in the book, let's say, if that makes sense?
Sure. So is this your startup that you're asking about?
Yeah, and it's e-commerce and delivery space. And I'm in Minnesota, and there's a new market emerging in 2025. So, in other words, there's no businesses that support the sale of this niche that I'm going to be participating in. So, a lot of businesses are going to be jumping on into this market in 2025. So, I'm wondering, how do I have that first to market advantage? And not only have that first mover advantage, but also create that giant awareness so I can really gain market share in the beginning stages.
Sure. Awesome. There's definitely an opportunity for us to have a deeper conversation about this, because there's a ton that I could say, but just in the interest of answering you here live and giving you some feedback that may also help others who are in a similar boat that are on this call, definitely just, again, understanding where your audience is going to be at, where they're spending time both online and offline, and building that buzz. And then for you personally, it's very important to have the awareness, that piece that you mentioned, but equally as important as the awareness is that people trust you and that they trust your opinion on that topic that you're going to be offering as your service, right? There's going to be other players in this space that are going to be competing with you, but whatever you could do up front to establish your own credibility and then your firm's credibility in that space, is going to work wonders. And it's one of those marketing things where it's not necessarily a marketing thing, but it's going to build that trust. And when it comes time for in 2025, when this goes down and other firms enter the market as well, people will already have, your persona, your brand front of mind. They'll have consumed your content. They'll have seen your posts. They'll understand where your position is at in that sector. And it's important that they trust you, right? Because that's one of the most important things. People think that everybody is cost focused, and they are. Cost is certainly an important factor when people consider who they're going to work with. But establishing that trust and establishing yourself as a credible source and a credible company in that area is going to work wonders for you. Even doing stuff like what I'm doing right now. I know there may be things you can't speak about publicly, but even whatever kind of teaser you can, people love what they don't know, right? People love coming soon. People get their curiosity so sparked up by stuff like that. So really look at what you can say right now and in the days and months leading up to 2025 and figure out how you can do that. And we can chat about this if you'd like more tangible advice. We can work together on how to make that as appealing and as buzzworthy as possible and try to go viral with it so that you've got people coming to you when launch date comes. Did that answer your question?
Awesome. Yep. I will message you right after the call. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Casey, thank you for being patient. I'm bringing you up on stage right now, and the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you for speaking today. I love the human aspect of it and fumbling through, right? We're all rowing in the same direction.
Right.
My question is, what is a good email tracking app or solution for tracking when it's open, when it's not open?
Sure. How are you sending your emails today?
Just through my work email.
Okay.
And so a lot of things are blocked, so I don't know, if there's spyware on their end, spyware on my end, right? But it would I didn't know if you had something off the cuff that allowed me to kind of track on the back end without getting into too much IT trouble.
Sure. So are you sending emails like one at a time, basically?
Absolutely, because of my audience. It's a very concierge service.
Sure.
It is not a pull-in big marketing hub. It is
Gotcha.
Very niche.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I think that there's opportunity for us to have a broader, deeper conversation about this down the road. But in the interest of answering you now, do you have a CRM system?
I don't.
Okay.
Other people do, but I have not had one. Is that something that I should look into?
I mean, it depends. You may have a very good strategy for keeping your arms around everything that's happening right now, but it's going to probably get to the point where you have too much to manage in Excel or however you're managing it off the books.
Yes,
and
Excel and I are BFF.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have other people on your team, but I'm sure there's knowledge in your head that is maybe not making it to the Excel spreadsheet because there's not a place for it, where in a traditional CRM system, you would be able to have a home, like a drop down for whatever it is. And I don't know too much about your industry here. So just thinking through the things that are important to you about each of your prospects and clients, you'd be able to really track that. But without incorporating a CRM system into the mix, and we could certainly chat about that as well, I have used Constant Contact, which is a standalone email campaign tool where you can segment your list, create your email campaigns, and then really dive into those analytics after the fact. You'll know if people open, if people click through. I believe there's even a heat map where you could see, like, did they click your logo at the top or at the bottom, and did they come back to the email? And then depending on where you're at in terms of budget, if you were to bring in a CRM system, so many of those have email marketing campaign abilities. So I spoke about Salesforce. Salesforce has Pardot, which is their native tool. It's pricey, but it's also very, very robust. You may not be at that point. You maybe would want to evaluate. I have not personally used HubSpot. I'm going to look into it because this has come up quite a bit recently with clients who realize they maybe need to be in a very basic introductory CRM, but there's small ones out there that are built for people who are just deciding they need to get into a CRM system, and where you kind of pay by the number of contacts that you have. So, and there may even be a free tier up to a certain extent. So you could get your feet wet. HubSpot does have an email marketing tool, I know, but Constant Contact is good. I have not used MailChimp, so I cannot speak about, the capabilities or any frustrations that one may cause, but there are definitely, standalone email campaign tools, but I would urge you to not be short-sighted and not think you only need an email campaign tool. You may also need a CRM system, and it would probably be very beneficial if that was all under one roof and those things were talking to each other, because it's going to probably save you some headaches down the road, and you'll be ahead of the Excel spreadsheet no longer working, right?
Yes. No, and I absolutely hear what you're saying. It just, you just caught my attention when you were talking about the emails. And so I was like, oh, I want to ask if she's got one that she uses. So I appreciate your time. Yeah,
we can definitely chat. I'd be happy to kind of understand more about where you're sitting here and what needs you have in an email marketing tool, and figure out one that, we could go through some demos and figure out which one would actually be the most, beneficial for the exact industry you're in and the exact needs that you have.
Excellent. Well, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you. And I appreciate your expertise today.
Yes. Thank you so much for attending and for coming up here. I'm sure plenty of other people have that same thought. They maybe didn't even think about the fact that they send emails and don't really know what happens once they're out into the abyss.
Very true. Very true.
Thank you, everybody, so much for taking the time to attend, especially those of you who stuck around here till the end. Really, really appreciate you. Appreciate everybody who came up and asked questions and made this a collaborative session. And hopefully I was able to open your eyes to some things and lend some insights for those of you that had specific questions. Like I said, feel free to connect with me. If there's something else you want to chat with that you didn't want to bring up here in front of everybody, go right ahead and shoot me a message and I'll be in touch. And like I said, many more exciting audio events similar to this coming up in the future. So stay tuned. And again, thank you so much for joining here. I hope you all have a great day, great rest of your day wherever you're at, and really take care.